Is this anxiety?
Check up on your mental health. Take an online mental health screening at mentalhealthmn.org. Mental Health Minnesota has online mental health screenings, resources, support, and connections to treatment and crisis services. All anonymous, confidential, free of charge, and open 7 days a week. Mental Health Minnesota is here for you. mentalhealthmn.org. Sponsored by Mental Health Minnesota, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Whether you rent or own a home, we all likely have nightmare stories about home maintenance, or what I like to call home cringe moments. Join me, your host, Katie Shahan, for the Yarlow Home Cringe Show. See what home cringe-worthy stories we have for you each week as we talk with local home service pros. Learn best practices for winterizing your home or what to look for after a hailstorm. Listen to the Yarlow Home Cringe Show every Sunday at 2 p.m. or on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hell is empty and the devils are all here again. Attend this original, uplifting, and revealing musical satire about the times in which we live. This play explores wokeism, misinformation, the colonization of Mars, spy balloons, and features parodies of President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and even Mickey Mouse and Barbie make an appearance. Interact's Hell is Empty and All the Devils Are Here Again offers a much-needed communal laugh and is in the spirit of radical inclusion. The performance is at the Luminary Arts Center in the North Loop and ends November 18th, so get your tickets now. Special Queer Night on Thursday, November 16th. Time is going fast, so do not miss your chance to see this original performance only available in Minneapolis. Interact Center's mission is to create art that challenges society's view of disabilities, and this performance features a cast of neurodiverse actors offering a joyful, inclusive, and funny look at our society. For tickets and more information, go to interactcenterarts.org. Hurry, play ends November 18th.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 29, then a chance of rain on Saturday with a high of 45. Scotch Mama's Hot Barbecue offers the huge taste of selections like baby back ribs and pulled pork sandwiches out of a little place. Scotch Mama's is located just a block west of I-35W off of West Diamond Lake Road in South Minneapolis. Visit their website at scotchamamas.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. Ha-ho! Hey, Kargi! Welcome all of our friends and relatives in all 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We discuss local and national Native news and events here on Native Roots Radio. This is producer Haley, Chasha Bewangawenik, descendant of the Great Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin and also the Winnebago tribe in Nebraska. I want to quickly introduce our first guest here, which she will have a couple segments for us, which we are always very grateful for. But just want to say happy Friday to all of you listening out there across the Twin Cities and across Turtle Island. It is a gloomy day here in the Twin Cities, but it's Friday. So how gloomy can we get? I'm going to quickly introduce Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh. Mary is a descendant of the Standing Rock Sioux. So thank you so much, Mary, for these updates. Take it away.
Aho, matake yape, ampetukinle shantewashte. Greetings, all my relatives. I greet you today with a warm handshake and a good heart. This is Senator Mary Kunesh. I am a state senator here in Minnesota, a descendant of the Standing Rock Nation, and just so happy to be able to celebrate and commemorate that this is Native American Heritage Month. And there is so much going on across our state. But I think it's really, first of all, so important that we recognize and remember and celebrate the really rich histories, the traditions, the heritage and the cultures, the ancestors of our American Indians, our Alaskan Natives, and our indigenous communities across the state and across the nation. Many of us come to Minnesota from other states. My grandfather actually came from the Standing Rock Nation as a young man. He came with his mother and his siblings, and they settled here in Minnesota in St. Paul. Some of his siblings ended up going back to the Standing Rock Reservation, others to Chicago, and many other cities kind of spread out. But very fortunate that my grandpa stayed here in St. Paul, started his family with my mother and her siblings, and we were able to know him. Oh, I probably knew him for my first 14 years of life, where he really did instill in us the pride and the love of our Native ancestry, of our Dakhota ancestry. And I wish he was still around to see all the good work that we're doing to this day. But it's important to remember that these lands that we walk on, that we live in, that we raise our families on, these are the ancestral lands and the contemporary lands known as Minnesota. And we have a really vibrant Native American communities across the nation. And, you know, there are often times where I go out to speak about the work that we're doing in the legislature, or most importantly, about the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Office and the work we're doing around that. And one of my first questions to the groups that I'm speaking to, and oftentimes they're non-Native, I'll ask them, you know, how many tribal nations, how many federally recognized tribal nations do we have in Minnesota? And unfortunately, 99.5% of the time, nobody in the group can tell me exactly how many tribal nations we house, we welcome here in Minnesota. And that's always really discouraging and a little bit heartbreaking. But here in Minnesota, we have 11 tribal nations. That includes 7 Anishinaabe, which are the Chippewa and Ojibwe reservations, and our 4 Dakhota Sioux communities. Our Anishinaabe reservations, for those that are listening and don't know, we have the Grand Portage, Boys Fort, Red Lake, White Earth, Leech Lake, Fond du Lac, and Mille Lacs. And then our Dakota communities are the Shakopee, Midwakaton, Prairie Island, Lower Sioux, and Upper Sioux. So that might be a new bit of facts that somebody who's listening is going to find out. Again, really sad to have to explain that to people, but you know, we're making big strides here in Minnesota around all of the work that we're trying to do around educating people around our Indigenous people. This year at the state legislature, instead of that Christopher Columbus Day, we reclaimed it as Indigenous Peoples Day and asked our schools to provide at least 1 hour of school programming in observance of the day. And that was, they could provide professional development or instruction to students on various topics of Indigenous culture, history, practices, contributions, and current issues that affect our Indigenous communities. But we weren't going to stop there, because in the Minnesota legislature, we created American Indian culture and language programming so that our school districts can conduct American Indian education programs that also include culture and language classes for at least 5% of the, wherever there are at least 5% of the students who are American Indian, or if there's 100 or more. So that was a big change. We also created Indigenous Education for All, and we're tasking the Education Commissioner to provide historically accurate, tribally endorsed, culturally relevant, and community-based, contemporary, and developmentally appropriate resources to support the implementation of Indigenous Education for All. Some of our schools are already doing that, and they've been embraced not just by our Native community students, communities of students, but also many others. And so we really want them to embed Indigenous education for all of our students into our state academic standards and make sure that we are participating with the advice of our tribal nations, as well as our education committee and the commissioner to really review and revise those standards for development. So that's some of the exciting work that we're doing here in Minnesota. Unfortunately, we had to create legislation that prohibited American Indian school mascots. Wish those schools would have done that voluntarily. And also, we codified in legislature the ability for our American Indian students to wear regalia or objects of cultural significance to their graduation ceremony. And again, it's really too sad when we have to legislate these things, but we were able to do it, and I think we'll see some really wonderful changes within our school districts as more and more of those schools recognize the value of allowing our students, and I hate to say allowing, but incorporating those things into our curriculum in our school. I'm going to take a little break here for a minute, but I should be back for another segment. We'll see you then.
Ha-ho, right on, Mary. Really, really, really great words. Please wish someone a happy Native American Heritage Month, especially if you're one of our allies. You know, it means so much to us as Native people that others in the state of Minnesota and across our communities recognize our resilience, our culture, and our ways of life. And the fact that we're still here, you know, brave enough to teach the history that people have tried to erase for so long. We know those preventing history from being taught intend to repeat it. So we've got another segment with Mary coming up after this short break. But one thing I want to leave with you before we take this break is a quote that has always stuck with me. If pain and trauma can be passed down through our generations, so can healing. So always remember that we can return to the good parts of our roots and write a new story, telling it in our way. You are listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back with Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh. Stay with us.
I've been driving in my Indian car with the pound of the wheels drumming in my brain. My dash is dusty, my plates are expired. Please, Mr. Officer, let me explain. I got to make it to a powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 down by the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Are you thinking about college? Consider checking out Minnesota Private Colleges. These 18 nonprofit institutions keep the focus on students with small classes and professors who will get to know you. You'll find students from all backgrounds, and no two colleges are alike. And when it comes to cost, they're more affordable than you think. Find the college that's right for you at mnprivatecolleges.org/possible. mnprivatecolleges.org/possible.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Temperatures are cooling off and fall migration is underway. Do you know what that means? Eagle viewing season is almost here, and the National Eagle Center is your headquarters for information and experiences. This winter, experience bald and golden eagles in the wild with an unforgettable expert-led field trip. Plan your private eagle habitat tour and learn where the best eagle viewing is with weekly eagle counts. Plus, you can visit the eagles at the center all season long. Plan your visit or experience today online at nationaleaglecenter.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho-Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition. Hey, producer Haley, Sherry, Shashape Wangawe Neek with you right now. Just want to give a big shout out to NAC, Native American Community Clinic out there. They do such really amazing work with within our Native communities all across the state of Minnesota, not just along the American Indian Cultural Corridor down there on Franklin Avenue. Shout out to Dr. Stately, who comes on with us every Monday. NAC, I don't have I could go on and on about all the great work that they do. They not only take care of your health and your body, but also your mind and your spirit, which is also very, very important. Just before the break, we were mid-conversation with our updates that we're so grateful for from Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh. So we will continue the second part of her update right now.
And I'm back. Senator Mary Kunesh from Minnesota here. I was talking about it being Native American Heritage Month here, and I kind of got sided off on all the good work we're doing around Indigenous education and addressing the inequities that we have here in Minnesota. But one thing I also wanted to talk a little bit about is the fact that November 7th was Election Day. And it was a big day for us here in Minnesota, as well as in other areas, other states. And, you know, it's just so important that we all get out and we vote when we have the opportunity to vote, whether it's a school board or a city council or, you know, your state representative or your senator or your governor or for the president. Because while many of us think, or many out there think that our vote doesn't count, it really, really, really does. And if it's one thing that our Native folks could do across the nation is to get together and really get behind good candidates. If you feel like the person who is representing you in your community or in your state or in the nation is not doing a good job, is not looking out for your best interests, then it really is your responsibility. And it's your responsibility for those coming down, coming in the next generations, right? To make sure that we are putting people in there whose policies and whose dollars are being used to the best possible way for our Indigenous communities and all of those around us, because we know when our communities thrive, all the other communities thrive as well. And I don't know how many of you know that it wasn't until 1924, with the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act, that Native Americans living on reservations finally got to be able to vote. In fact, many Native folks to this day don't realize that they can vote outside of their tribal elections. So when the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 passed, my mom's dad, from the Standing Rock Nation, could not vote. His wife could vote, but he couldn't vote. And, that wasn't so long ago. And it took until 1948 for our Native relatives in New Mexico and Arizona to actually go to court and get their right to vote. And my neighbor to the west, North Dakota, North Dakota and Utah became some of the last states that were allowed on reservation Native Americans to vote. And that wasn't until 1957 and 1958. So that wasn't so long ago. And the fight for the right to vote didn't end then. And we all know that there is still immense voter suppression laws that are keeping our Native Americans from voting and also seeking elected office themselves. I know that in Arizona, Native Americans couldn't even participate in voting until 1970. And that took the Supreme Court banning using literacy tests. So again, these kind of actions against our Indigenous people is still alive. I mean, even today, the right to vote continues to be challenged through all kinds of new laws and practices. And they intentionally target our Native American voters, really with the intent of discouraging and disenfranchising them from voting. And so I think it's so important that we look at why our communities of color and our Native communities find it so difficult to vote. We know, and you can look at the statistics, that the turnout for Native Americans is actually the lowest in this country compared to any other group. And there's a lot of issues that contribute to that low voter turnout. There was a study done by the Native American Voting Rights Coalition that found, and I don't think any of us are going to be very surprised, that there is such a low level of trust in our government. There's a lack of information on how to vote, where to vote, when to vote. And when we look at the reservations across the country, oftentimes our community members have to travel long distances to either register or to even vote. And oftentimes the information that they're trying to access, they aren't able to get on the internet because they don't have access to the internet. When folks come into town, sometimes we'll find that the polling places are in unwelcome spaces, such as the police department. And we know that in many of these communities, the hostility that is shown towards our Native Americans are going to prevent the voters from coming into those places because they don't trust those community members. There's intimidation, and they put obstacles in the way, such as you have to have a residential address. And if you don't have like a 1122 First Avenue North address such as that, they won't allow you to vote. And so it's so important that we make these changes to the voting process to really further the the ability and remove the frustration of our Native American votes. The voting that we do has such an important consequence. We have to make choices all the time about feeding our families, how we're going to expend our resources to ensure that our family stays housed, that we can get to work, that we can find a good paying job. And that when you vote and you vote for those that are going to support you, that is the power of your vote. It's you're going to look at, the poverty rate of our Native Americans is around 26.8%. And how are those that represent you helping to address those issues so that we can raise our wages, raise our standard of living, and be able to create and build that generational wealth that so many of our non-Native community members have. And so it's really important that we are playing a role in building good practices and policies that are going to eliminate that systemic discrimination. And I'm really proud to say that here in Minnesota, the Department of Human Rights has a new law that will go into place January 1st, 2024. And it's aimed at bringing Minnesota one step closer to closing the gender and the racial pay gap in Minnesota. Because currently, Native women only earn 61 cents and Native men earn 70 cents for every dollar a white man earns. And this new law is going to prohibit all Minnesota employers from asking all prospective or current employees about their current or past pay. And if anybody does that here in Minnesota, we're going to ask them to contact the Department of Human Rights and let them know, because this is just unacceptable in any way, shape, or form. And the new law is going to help close that gender and that racial pay gap. And when you are applying for a job, those employers are going to have to rely on your skills, your education, your certification, your license, and other qualifications, as well as the job market. And it's going to prohibit those employees for asking about or considering any of your past or current pay during that hiring process. So we wish you well. Until next week, take care, everybody. Wopila and Chi Miigwech.
Big Pina Gigi, Mary, thank you so much. We always appreciate your updates on Native Roots Radio. Next up, we have an encore segment with Justis Brokenrope, and he talks about the Dakhota Immersion School within the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. And then after that, we have a new Fun Fact Friday Sacred Animals segment with Wendy Pilot. Stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Are you remote workers putting your company at risk? Not sure what steps to take to secure your data? Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide with the 5 steps to securely work from home. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
Hi, this is Gina. Matthew, I will not read this next line.
I'll be your snookum-wookums.
Fine. My husband is the sexiest radio host in Minnesota, Matt McNeil.
Dang straight.
When it came time to replace my vehicle, I wanted an option that was safe in the environment. I wanted a hybrid. My RAV4 Hybrid is a greener vehicle without sacrificing style and comfort. I love my Toyota Hybrid.
Toyota hybrids are incredibly fuel efficient. Test drive one today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Get a head start on your holiday shopping at Next Chapter Booksellers. Black Friday is just around the corner, and Next Chapter Booksellers has the perfect gift ideas. Books make for easy, thoughtful gifts that are a breeze to wrap and ship. Their friendly staff excels at offering recommendations for all ages and preferences. Explore their wide selection of puzzles and games for interactive family fun. And if you're still stumped, then try a Next Chapter Booksellers gift card. That's Next Chapter Booksellers in St. Paul, your destination for easy-to-give gifts.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 29, then a chance of rain on Saturday with a high of 45. Hell is Empty and All the Devils Are Here Again offers a much-needed communal laugh and is in the spirit of radical inclusion. Performances are at the Luminary Arts Center in Minneapolis now until November 18th. Get your tickets at interactcenterarts.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis. Hey, producer Haley Chashape with you now. I'm a descendant of the Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin. If you're just tuning in, before the break, we had our first half of today's show with some new updates from our friend, Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh, and Mary is a descendant of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Right now, I want to introduce a Best Job segment that we did recently with Justis Brokenrope and Little Moments Count. Justis is a Wahówiąpi Language Nest educator within the University of Minnesota Twin Cities and is Rosebud Dakhota. Here is our interview with Justis on the Dakhota Language Revitalization Program with our young ones at the University of Minnesota.
Oh, Wahówiąpi Justis Brokenrope, Makiapido, Chante, Washte, Nape, Chiuzapido. Thanks for having me today, Robert, Haley.
Right on. Hey, tell us about the school and about what's going on there with the Language Nest and its mission, and talking about Dakhota language.
Yeah, so we started, last year was our pilot year. I'm the assistant teacher in a Dakhota language immersion preschool classroom. So in this classroom, for those who aren't familiar with immersion settings, we don't speak anything but Dakhota. Right now we have 2 to 5 year olds. We have 11 students enrolled in the class. Last year we started with 5, so we jumped up quite a bit. The lead teacher in the classroom is Brenda Toscano Whiteface. She's the first speaker, which we're really grateful to have. And yeah, we're going strong. We're about a year, not quite a year and a half into it, but enrollment's increased and seeing great results from the kids.
Yeah, it's exciting because the young ones can learn quicker than us old ones, and the revitalization is so important to keep us being natives in the next generations to come. So I just applaud what you're doing. I know it's huge all over Turtle Island with tribes really trying to pick it up, because I feel like we've lost a couple generations, my generation and the generation before, with boarding schools and all these things that have really tried to erase us. So I just applaud you and you working with these young ones.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's the same for me where I only grew up with a handful of my language. I'm Lakota from Rosebud, and so we had a few words here and there in the house, but I didn't have an opportunity like this when I was a young one. And so to be a part of this now is a really big thing and a really moving thing and really special in so many ways.
Yeah, we can't talk about it enough, and I think, I believe, the last 10, 15 years, especially our young ones and our teens and people maybe your age are really stepping up to the plate, and that's been exciting for me to watch and see and experience too secondhand because we've lost our language. I mean, our family, but yet we as Ho-Chunks, I believe we're down to 60 intimate speakers, and that's a red alert. That's we need to pull this out. So talk to us a little bit about how do you engage the family too? Not only the young ones, but they have to bring that home with them too.
Yeah, you said it right there. When you're at school for 8 hours a day, obviously we're staying in the language, everything's going down in that manner, but we don't have the kids those other 16 hours, obviously. And with the exception of two families, none of the other families speak Dakhota as a first language at home with their children or rest of their family. And so something in language revitalization, particularly indigenous language revitalization, the Maori and the Hawaiians are really the ones who put forth these really good models. I think roughly like 20 to 30 years ago, they were kind of figuring out what worked, what didn't work, and kind of hammered out the methods that need to happen in this sort of work. And something that we pulled from that and what we learned from them was that they had parent education classes. And so when our pilot year started last year, that would just be on a Wednesday evening during pickup. When the families would come to pick up their kids, the parents would come over and we would have a class for them where we would kind of review what we were doing with the kids in class. And so they could bring some of that language home. How do you say, oh, like put on your coat, like brush your teeth, things like that, they're just simple phrases a lot of the time. And for our language, it's one word sometimes.
Right.
And so, things that you can just embrace at home really quickly to get more language acquisition there as well is really vital. And so hopefully we get to a point where we can have more of those parent classes, and there are other Dakota language opportunities in the Twin Cities, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of one of the big components of this is making sure the parents are able to embrace the language and use it outside of the classroom with their kids.
Yeah, it is really important. So the Nest enrolls Dakota families and their those affiliated with the University of Minnesota community, but it also aims to enroll families committed to language revitalization, regardless of financial resources. How do you ensure that everyone can be and have access to this?
Yeah, so right now our cap is at 12 students. We have 11 currently. 3 of those kids belong to they're siblings. So we have 8 different families, and only one of them is non-Dakota or Lakota. And so we're not at cap yet, but obviously our priority is to give Dakota and Lakota families, or to give those families priority in this program. And then beyond that, we have scholarships available for tuition at the school. And so we've done our best to make it accessible for everyone. And I think based off last year, our pilot year starting with only 4 families and jumping now to 8, things have been going pretty strong in that regard.
Yes, there is a revitalization, and it's great. I think that we're talking about this and getting the word out. Haley, I noticed that you're listening intently. Do you have any questions? Because this is a family affair here.
Yeah, well, I just want to say language is so hard to learn, especially as the older you get. And I've definitely had my fair share of struggle with it. But so just a big Peanut Geeky thank you for teaching these young ones their language, especially their cultural language. And yeah, I'm happy to see this language program take off a bit more at the U of M. I didn't know about this before, so I'm really excited. And, Robert and I are both alumni from the U of M, so we really support this program and all the great work that's going on over there.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. I the high school I taught at taught Ojibwe and Lakota, Dakhota. But I like a good hoka hey every once in a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, right on. Yeah. So when can you talk a little bit about your teaching? So if they're with young ones, is there games involved? Is fun things? How do you break the ice? And it's easier, I imagine, that it's an immersion school where everybody has to speak the language.
Yeah, and so for me personally, it was kind of I had just graduated from the U and studied Dakhota there, and went to like programs around the city. And so when the school popped up, the job was offered to me, and I had a little bit of experience with early childhood, but had mostly taught adults. And so it was kind of nice going into this and having a lot of really good mentors. Brenda, the teacher here, she's been teaching early childhood for a long time. Sheila Williams-Ridge, one of the directors here at the school. For me personally, they really helped me engage with children in a meaningful way, in ways that I could understand, and then apply kind of this emergent curriculum and assisting with language acquisition. And so some of the things we do, I think you would see in a conventional preschool classroom, reading stories, games, songs, a lot of that. But then, constantly maintaining ourselves in the language, just making certain that we're not breaking it. But then also a focus at this school is more of a nature-based curriculum. So we spend the majority of our day outside, and we strive to do that throughout the whole year. And that nature-based curriculum is really in line with our Indigenous perspectives too, and the ways that we want to talk about the world around us and our relatives in nature, and kind of embracing those ideas, and then making sure that these kids are understanding that in a good and safe space where they feel comfortable, and then hearing it in the language as well. And so, yeah, it is a lot of things that you'd imagine you would do with 2 to 5 year olds. But again, all in the language, and then, striving to kind of just like be outside as much as possible and see what they're interested in and the things that they want to talk about, and how we can talk about it in the language.
I'd like to hear some of the obstacles. One of the things I was thinking as you were talking is being a former teacher, it was 10 months with the kids, and then we wouldn't see them in the summer, but that's got to be hard for a language learner.
Absolutely. Yeah. Regarding obstacles, I mean, that's a huge one. There are things you can do over the summer, but that being said, not a lot of them are catered towards early childhood most of the time. They're more towards people around our ages. And so finding ways that kids can, there's an organization, Dakhota Yapio Kodakichie, which is DIO, that's based out of the Twin Cities, that organizes a lot of camps. And those are where kids can go, kind of hear languages. I've worked there. Brenda's worked there. Other Dakhota teachers work there from time to time. And so there are opportunities, but yeah, it is definitely a challenge. And that's kind of the key thing, where it's like we want to set these parents up to be able to speak more at home and more consistently. And we can see when that happens too. But yeah, it's that's definitely an obstacle. Another one that I think is pretty well known across Indigenous language revitalization in general is that we need more speakers, more learners, and more of those willing to be teachers. When you start learning your tribe's language, especially as a young person, there's an inherent pressure where everyone's like, well, you're going to go teach it. And so I think a lot of people get intimidated, and maybe that's not their priority at that time, or that's not what they want to do, and that's okay. But really, we just need more people, learning as much as they can. But yeah, it's there are certainly challenges, and I think Ho-Chunk, Ojibwe, all the other groups in this area that resonates with them as well.
If you want to hear more of Justice on Native Roots Radio, make sure to tune into next Thursday's episode where we welcome him back, but this time to talk the universal language, which we call music, specifically all Native music and all on vinyl. Speaking of music, I'm actually going to sign off and pass things back to Patrick here at the Mothership, which is the AM 950 station. I'm heading out to the Stevie Nicks and Billy Joel concert. So have a great weekend, everyone. Up next is a new Sacred Animals Fun Fact Friday with Robert and Wendy Pilot, all the way from New York. Stay with us.
Unveil the captivating world of Native photography at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. Their new exhibit, In Our Hands, Native Photography 1890 to Now, turns the camera around and puts Native photographers in control, featuring hundreds of photographs captured by generations of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and Native Americans. You'll view the world through their lens, revealing the beauty and complexity of Indigenous heritage. Don't miss this incredible experience. Visit In Our Hands at the Minneapolis Institute of Art now through January 14th. For more info, visit artsmia.org.
Hi, I'm Claudia with MinSure, Minnesota's official health insurance marketplace. With MinSure, you can compare health plans from multiple companies and get free help from a trusted expert. Whatever health plan you choose with MinSure, it's guaranteed to cover essential benefits, so you can get the care you need. See if you qualify for discounts, available only through MinSure. If you need quality, comprehensive health insurance, it started now at minsure.org.
The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for fun. Your friends and your family will have a great time with the fantastic food like the pizzas, appetizers, burgers, entrees, and sandwiches. The best bowling in Minnesota, the wildly popular outdoor patio, great drink specials, all the big games on their numerous screens, and it's the perfect place for your next private event, even large gatherings for over 200. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for everyone age 1 to 100. Come see for yourself. Have fun at the Park Tavern, Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, it's Fun Fact Friday, and Wendy loves talking about her sacred animals, and we love hearing it. I've learned so much over the years, Wendy, so take it away.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Hanajihihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajingo, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. And it's always my pleasure to do that. Robert, we were in Manhattan today. And a very friendly little squirrel came right up to me, and he kind of startled me because I was like, he got really like uncomfortably close to me. But I just told him, I don't have anything for you, buddy. And he walked away. But I was thinking about squirrels that live in Manhattan, right? Or how they live in Manhattan. Wow. And the majority of squirrels in New York are your normal everyday eastern gray squirrels. And those are the ones that we see, everywhere. And we see them in St. Paul also. Yeah. The southern flying squirrel is one of the 4 squirrel species that can be found in New York City. The other 3 are the eastern gray squirrel. And then there's another squirrel also. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But are there squirrels in Manhattan? And we already know that there are. And if you spend any time in New York City and in the park, chances are you have spotted one of the gray squirrels. These tree-dwelling animals have become something of an unofficial mascot for the city's parks by nature of their visibility. There's also another one. I've never heard of this, and I've lived on Long Island. My whole adult life and lived in Minnesota for how long now, Robert? 24 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are the big squirrels in New York? And I think I know what you're going to say. The rats. But it's not the rats. A type of marmot. The woodchuck is the New York's largest member of the squirrel family, with an adult woodchuck weighing as much as 12 pounds, though most average around 7 pounds. It has a chunky body, which keeps low to the ground. I never knew
12 pounds?
Yeah. Could you imagine?
That's bigger than our dog.
I know. Wanda's only 9 pounds. So, but it said here the most average about 7 pounds, and it has a chunky body which keeps low to the ground. And here's another thing: are black squirrels in New York City? So black fur for both species of squirrels is rare and occurs at a rate of less than 1%. It has been suggested that only 1 in 10,000 eastern gray squirrels are a black morph. Yeah. Now we have squirrels are territorial. So there's a couple of streets, like when we're home walking Wanda, that I know have black squirrels living down them. And there's one particular street where I'll say, Wanda, come on, let's go see the black squirrel. And most of the time we'll see a couple of black squirrels there.
They're more rare than white, I heard.
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe
I think you told me that
this.
years ago on our sacred animal portion.
Yeah. Do flying squirrels live in New York City? New York has an overlap of northern and southern flying squirrels, and they're actually in our parks feeding on acorns and fungi.
I was a fun guy in high school.
So what is the most common squirrel in New York? And here it says again, the eastern gray squirrel, and they can grow 9 to 12 inches in length and reach 2 pounds upon sexual maturity. Despite their name, they come in a variety of colors and will often display a mix of gray, brown, black, and cinnamon fur. Their long hair, bushy tails can grow to be roughly as long as their bodies. Okay, this is a fun question. How long do New York City squirrels live?
7 years.
Well, it's if they might get shot. If they
Shot?
by a gun, by a random gun.
Really?
Okay, so long-lived for rodents, squirrels average 3 to 5 years old, but can live up to 8 to 10 years in the wild, which is several times longer than the usual year or two for most smaller rodents. When most New Yorkers think of squirrels, this is the species they picture. Yeah. So is that enough? Yeah. So what do New York City squirrels eat? What do you think they eat?
McDonald's. Scraps, food.
They're omnivorous, scatterer, hoarderer. The eastern gray squirrels' days are spent foraging, eating, and catching acorns and other nuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It also noshes on fruits, berries, insects, corn, wheat, tree bark, fungi, carrion, seeds, flower, and tree buds, and sometimes birds' eggs and fledglings.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about that. Many of which are plentiful in Central Park.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's it. We have lots of squirrels in New York City. And I have another a bit of fun facts that we were talking about the other day. And this is from, let's see here, 50 Strange and Fascinating Facts About Animals. And this is written by Ellen Strum-Nitz. Some of these we already talked about, but we could always review them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the average dog is about as smart as a 2-year-old child.
Ours is smarter.
That explains a lot about both canines and toddlers. You think Wanda's smarter than a 2-year-old?
Emotionally.
Emotionally.
She's emotionally mature.
Unlike most every other mammal, cats can't taste sweetness.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
They're also often lactose intolerant, so you might as well lick your own ice cream bowl clean and don't give them any milk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know the toothy grins of chimps you see on TV shows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lancelot Link, the secret chimp.
Yeah, that it doesn't mean what you think. That expression signals fear or anxiety in the chimp world. Yeah, they make a grunting sound when they're happy. But we're smiling people and we smile with our teeth. So when people see a chimp doing that, they think that, they're happy too.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're
Let's
stressed.
see. Okay, so humans, we sweat all over our bodies, but dogs only sweat on the pads of their feet.
Not in their mouth when they're panting?
Yeah, no. And I
Always
think
thought
that's how
that.
they keep cool, but they sweat on the pads of their feet. So if your dog is really hot, cool off their paws, wrap them in cool, like wet cloth or paper towel or something like that.
Wow.
Cats have over 20 muscles to control their ears and can rotate them 180 degrees. No wonder their sense of hearing is so amazing.
What?
Bottle-nosed dolphins swim up to 18 miles an hour.
Ooh.
Most humans are lucky to swim 4 miles per hour.
Right. I mean,
I didn't even know a human could swim 4 miles an hour. I just watched that movie. What was it called? Maynard on Netflix about the 64-year-old woman who swam from Cuba to Key West. It was really fantastic. You should give it a try. Watch it.
Definitely. Hey, we got about 30 seconds here.
Elephants have a specific warning call that means human.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
they should,
They
especially
should.
with all those
The
poachers.
Exactly. I know.
God.
Dogs only see in yellow, blue, and gray. So do your pup a favor and buy a Frisbee in one of those colors so he can more easily find it and like it and have fun at the park. So yellow, blue, or gray.
Wow, let's remember that one. Hey, Pinagigi, Wendy, everyone have a great weekend. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. We'll see you next week. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier now.